the first chapter called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The word Vishada means despondency, conflict, depression. Yet such a state has been called a yoga in this chapter. The Gita begins with the conflict of Arjuna, and many commentators don't take this chapter very seriously because there is no wisdom teaching in this chapter. There are no words coming from Krishna. It's a description of the battlefield, it's a description of the various armies, the warriors, the characters of the warriors, and the description of Arjuna about to start the battle and Arjuna's condition after he realizes who his enemies are. Enthusiastic to fight in the beginning, but when he realizes that the people who he is supposed to fight, the people who he has to kill, are none other than his own uncles, his grandfather, his teacher, he becomes confused. He says, is this a proper thing to do? He gets a moral conflict. Is it proper for me to slay my own fathers, grandfathers, uncles, teachers, all for the sake of winning a kingdom? The Mahabharata war took place because the Kauravas were not willing to share their kingdom. They did not give the Pandavas their fair share of the kingdom. After Pandu died, he entrusted his brother Dhritarashtra to look after both the princes, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. When the Pandavas were growing, they were full of prowess, full of vigor, energy, intelligence, goodness, virtue. These qualities made Duryodhana very jealous, and he was constantly plotting and finding ways to kill them, eliminate them, so that they will have sovereign control over their kingdom, one of the reasons. So he makes a scheme with the help of his uncle Shakuni that they should exile the Pandavas for a period of 13 years. 1 year they have to live in disguise, because the Kauravas were confident that either these long years of exile will destroy the Pandavas, or that 1 year that they have to live in disguise, they will surely be discovered. And if they were discovered, they will have to go in for a further 13 years of exile. So this made the Kauravas very confident that they had got rid of the Pandavas forever. But the Pandavas fulfilled the conditions. They stayed 1 year incognito. And now it was the time for Duryodhana to share the kingdom, to divide the kingdom. But he refused. So the Pandavas said, all right, give us just 5 villages. You keep the kingdom, just give us 5 villages. But Duryodhana refused. He said, I will not give you one pinpoint of... So the only solution was to settle the matter by a war. Duryodhana was the prince, and so everybody had to obey him. And every method was used to prevent the war. And as a last resort, we should go to war. And the day before the battle, Arjuna and Duryodhana, they go to ask for Shri Krishna's help. And Shri Krishna is lying down at that time, and Duryodhana, being arrogant, he goes and sits at the head of the cot. And Arjuna respectfully stands by the feet. And when Shri Krishna's eyes opened, he first saw Arjuna. And so Arjuna had an opportunity to talk to him first, even though Duryodhana was elder. So the condition was this. Krishna said, I will give you my army, all my weapons, or I will come to the battlefield with no weapons and with no intention to fight. What do you want? Duryodhana took the army and all the weapons. And Arjuna said, I'll be happy if you can be my charioteer. You need not fight. So he agrees. This was the day before the battle. And on the battle day itself, the army is arrayed on the field of Kurukshetra. Duryodhana and his army, and Yudhishthira with his army, and Sanjaya is the reporter. He gets a special vision to report everything that is happening in the battlefield to the king Dhritarashtra in Hastinapura, in the palace. So it was like some sort of a television of those days. He had been given a divine eye So he was sitting in the palace and he was narrating the story, day by day, event by event, to the blind king Dhritarashtra. And Gita begins by Dhritarashtra's words. Now, Arjuna was not the commander that day. The commander of the army that day was Bhima, and it was his duty to blow the conch and declare that the war is about to begin. But Arjuna takes up the initiative. He tells Krishna, take my chariot to the middle of the battlefield so that I may see all those who are arrayed here ready to fight. And so Shri Krishna takes his chariot in the middle of the battlefield and he points it straight to Bhishma and Drona. Both of these people were the most respected persons in Arjuna's life. Bhishma is his grandfather. He is the head of the clan, Pitamaha. And Drona is his teacher, who has taught him how to use the very bow and arrow that he is holding in his hand. So when he sees these two acharyas, great people, standing before him, he loses his courage and he wants to now go away from the battlefield. And he says to Krishna, he says, I don't want to fight. It is better that I become a mendicant, a beggar, and I go from place to place and live on alms, a very simple, pure life, not hurting anybody, not disturbing anybody, live the life of a sadhu, of a bhikkhu, rather than to fight in this battle and kill all these great people and incur sin. So he gives a lot of sentimental arguments. And he becomes in a state of helplessness. At the final point, he drops his bow, he drops his arrows, and he says, I shall not fight. So that is the end of the first chapter. So that is why it is called a Vishada Yoga, the despondency, the dejection, or the conflict of Arjuna. We find another wisdom text also, called the Yoga Vashishta Ramayana, in which Sri Ram also has a similar conflict, and Vashishta is his guru. Vashishta teaches him the science of Brahma Vidya, knowledge of Brahman. This absolutist spiritual knowledge is given to Sri Rama by Vashishta, and that clears all the doubts from his mind and he becomes a healthy, wise prince again. Here too, Arjuna will be taught in the rest of the Gita the knowledge of Brahma, Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. And at the end of the Gita he says, Nashto Moha, my delusion is dispelled. I am now ready to fight. I know who I am. I know what is my role in life. I know what I should do. I know what is my duty. In the beginning he is a confused man. He does not know his real nature. He does not know what is his duty. He does not know what he should do and what he should not do. That is the state in chapter 1. But by chapter 18, he has become a fully enlightened, wise person. Now, Dhritarashtra is a typical weak king whose mind is always wavering. He cannot make up his mind. Also, being a king, he should not have any favoritism. He should be even-minded. He should have a sense of justice, fair play. But the first verse itself tells us about his character, that he had a blind spot in his mind. He was not only physically blind, he was also spiritually blind. He was favorable to his own people. He says, Mamakaha Pandavas Chaiva Kimakuravat Sanjaya. Now Sanjaya is sitting there narrating the story to him, and Dhritarashtra says, Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Now the word Dhritarashtra is indicative of his station. Dhrita means to support. Sanskrit word dhr means to support. So the word dharma, the word dharti, the word dhrita, they all come from the same root, to support. Dharma is the law which supports, makes a thing what it is. That is dharma. And dharti is this earth. This earth supports all of us. So we say dharti. Brha is the root. Just like Brahman, Braha is the root. Braha means that which is expanding. And Brahman is always expanding, that which is growing all the time. Brahman. Similarly, from Dhra you get Dharma, Dharti, Dhritarashtra. Rashtra is a nation. So the supporter of the nation, person on whom the nation depends, is the king. If the king is a just king, the nation is happy. If the king is a brave king, the people are secure. If the king is a tyrannical king, people live in fear. If the king is not a wise king, then people also suffer. So everything rests on the leader, on the king. So Dhritarashtra is the one who supports the nation. And he is blind. So here we have the case of a blind king. Not only physically blind, but spiritually blind. And if we read the Mahabharata, you will find that he constantly shifts his mind, always changing his mind. And whatever Duryodhana tells him, he has a sense of affection for his own son. Even though he knows that his son is in the wrong, he favors his son. See, here he says, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamakaha pandavaschaiva kimakuravat sanjaya. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre, in the field of dharma and in the field of the Kurus. Kurukshetra is the actual battlefield. Samaveta yuyutsavaha, those gathered together, intent on battle. Mamakaha pandavaschaiva kim akuravat sanjaya. Mamakaha means mine, Pandavaschaiva, and the Pandavas. He's asking Sanjaya, what were my people and the Pandavas doing when they were gathered on the Kurukshetra field, intent on fighting? And Sanjaya Uvacha, Sanjaya says, Drishtva tu Pandavanikam vyudham Duryodhanastada acharyam upasangamya raja vachanam abravit. The first person to approach the teacher is Duryodhana. On seeing the army of the Pandavas in battle, Prince Duryodhana, having approached his teacher, then gave utterance to the following speech. So, the first person who is to speak in the Bhagavad Gita is Duryodhana. His teacher means goes to Drona. And he says to his teacher, O teacher, look at this grand army of the sons of Pandu, marshalled by your talent pupil, the son of Drupada. Son of Drupada is Drishtadyumna. He was the commander of that day. Here are heroes, mighty archers, equal in battle to Bhima and Arjuna, Yuyudhana, Virata and Drupada of the great chariot. These are all the great warriors. One is Drishtadyumna, Bhima and Arjuna, of course, are the Pandavas, then Yuyudhana, Virata, Drupada, Drishtaketus Chekitanaha, Kashirajascha Viryavan, Purojit Kunti Bhojascha, Shaibhyascha Narapungavaha. So this is a description of two things here. So these are all the good forces. That is Bhima, Arjuna, Yudhana, Virata, Drupada, etc. These are the people who are standing on the side of Pandavas. This is literally a battle between the good and the evil. So on one side are all the good people, on the other side are all the evil people. And those who are helplessly caught and forced to take the side of Duryodhana because he is the prince. Ishtaketu Chekitana, the valiant king of Kashi, Purojit, Kunti Bhoja, and the bull among men, Shaibhya. The heroic Yuddhamanyu and the brave Uttamajas, the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi, all of great chariots. This is still Duryodhana describing all the various warriors and the great chiefs who are stationed on the side of the Pandavas. He's talking to Drona. But know who are the most distinguished among us, O best of the twice born, the leaders of my army. These I tell you, for you to recognize by name. Now he is describing his army on the side of the Kauravas. Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha. You means Drona. Drona, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, Saumadatti. So these are all the very valiant, desperate, brave, but on the side of the Kauravas. Anyecha bhavaha shura madarthe tyaktva jivitaha nana shastra praharanaha sarve yuddha visharadaha. So these are the Kaurava side who is going to challenge the Pandavas. This whole chapter, large part of it is only a description of the battlefield. We have to picture all these great warriors standing there, the stalwarts on one side, and all the great warriors on the opposite side. And these are the names of all the great warriors. Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta. And many other heroes who are willing to die for me, who have various missiles and weapons, all skilled in warfare. That army of ours which is under the care of Bhishma is insufficient, but this army of theirs which is under the care of Bhima is adequate. This is very interesting. Though in size, Duryodhana's army is larger, but still he has misgivings. He has doubts, and he still thinks the smaller army of Pandavas, they are better. And so let all of you stand in your respective positions at the entrance to every formation. Keep guard on Bhishma. Bhishma is the commander for the Kauravas, and so he gives instructions that under all circumstances you have to protect Bhishma. So seeing this kind of doubt on the part of Duryodhana. To boost the morale of the army, the mighty old Kuru patriarch roared loudly like a lion and blew a conch. Bhishma blows his conch to cheer him up. And when the Shankhanad takes place, then conches and drums and gongs and horns were played together suddenly, and that sound made a confused clang. So when they heard his conch, the kettle drums and the other horns and drums, all those also started making a noise, but it made a confused clang. There was no order in the Kuru side. It was like a lot of rowdies making a lot of noise. So there was a challenge thrown up from the side of the Kauravas. Then standing on their great chariot, to which white horses were yoked, and on the other side now we have Arjuna and Krishna. They blew their divine conches. In contrast with the confused clang on the side of the Kauravas, you have the harmony and the perfect order on the side of the Pandavas. Panchajanyam, Rishikesha, Devadattam, Dhananjaya. So these are the two conches. Krishna blew the Panchajanyam, that's the name of his conch. And Devadattam, Dhananjaya. It was given by the gods, Devadattam. Poundram dadhmo mahashankam bhima karma vrakodaraha. And Poundra is the name of Bhima's conch. So Arjuna blew his conch, Bhima blew his conch. Bhima is the commander for that day. Ananta Vijayam Raja Kuntiputro Yudhishthiraha. And Yudhishthira blew the Ananta Vijayam. And Nakula and Sahadeva, they blew their conches called Sughosha and Mani Pushpakau. So there is a scheme here also. Their conch signifies beauty, aesthetics. Sughosha and Mani Pushpakau. And Bhima's has fury in it. Poundram, Dadmo, Mahashankam, Bhima Karma, Vakodara. So there is an orderly, beautiful blowing of the conches. It's not a confused clang, but one after the other you find the blowing of the conches from the side of the Pandavas. And Nakula and Sahadeva together blew Sughosha and Mani Pushpaka. And the king of Kashi, excellent bowman, Shikandhin, the great charioteer, Drishtadyumna and Virata, and the unconquered Satyaki, Drupada and the sons of Draupadi, O Lord of the earth, and the son of Subhadra of mighty arms, from all sides each blew his conch separately. So there was no confusion, but you can imagine how harmoniously it was done, beautiful sounding. That loud blast filling earth and sky with sound pierced the hearts of Drupada's son. And hearing that sound coming from the side of the Pandavas, the Kauravas felt that right to their very heart. Then beholding the son of Dhritarashtra standing marshalled in order, while the flight of arrows was beginning, the son of Pandu, of monkey ensign, took up his bow. And O king, he spoke thus to Rishikesha, O Achyutya, stop my chariot right in the middle between the two armies. And this is where Arjuna takes the initiative. After they have responded to the first call from the side of the Kauravas, then Arjuna says, Rishikesham tada vakyam iham aha mahaipate senayor ubhayor madhye ratham sthapaye me achyuta. Senayor, between the army, between the sena. Ubhayor madhye, madhye means in the middle. Ratham sthapaye me achyuta. Station my chariot right in the middle between the two armies, so that I may behold thee standing eager to fight by my side in the present battle undertaking, and might observe those here gathered together who desire to please in war the evil-minded sons of Dhritarashtra. So this is the instruction. After all, Rishikesha is only his Sarathi, charioteer. This is the only scripture perhaps in the world where God comes to serve man. God is Krishna. Krishna is coming as a mere charioteer of Arjuna. Arjuna then instructs him, take my chariot to the middle of the battlefield, so that I may see all these great people who are assembled here ready to fight. And Krishna does just that. Then Sanjaya says, thus addressed by Gudakesha, Rishikesha, having stationed that excellent chariot right in the middle between the two armies, facing Bhishma and Drona and all the rulers of the earth, Krishna said, O Partha, behold these Kurus gathered here. This is the beginning of the conflict of Arjuna. Up to this point he shows his bravery, he shows his initiative, he shows his readiness to fight, but when he is actually reached the 11th hour, the actual moment, and he comes face to face with the person he has to fight, and he looks at them. Then Partha saw fathers as well as grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, and companions too. And the son of Kunti, also seeing these relatives, fathers-in-law and friends, all standing in both the armies, filled by a supreme pity, in mental distress, said, "Beholding my own people, O Krishna, standing together wanting to fight, my limbs fail and my mouth dries up, my body trembles and my hair stands on end. Sidanti mama gatrani mukham cha parisushyati vepasthuscha sharire me romaharshascha jayate." He says, "Kripaya paraya vishto." Kripa means pity. Avishtaha paraya, filled. He gets filled by supreme pity, not an ordinary pity. For a Kshatriya, for a warrior to be on the battlefield, he has to display valor, prowess, courage. But on the battlefield, when both the armies are ready to fight, everybody is waiting. At that time, if you feel pity, it is inappropriate. And he gets filled by supreme pity in mental distress. That is the Vishada. He gets mentally distressed. Beholding my own people, O Krishna, standing wanting to fight, and he starts trembling. My limbs fail me. Sidanti mama gatrani. Cha mukham parisushyati. Mouth becomes dry. It happens to many people. When young people go for their first interview after doing university, all these symptoms come. Or you have to give your first public talk. Sidanti mama gatrani. Legs will be trembling like this. And mukham cha parisushyati, mouth runs dry. Vepataschu sharirame. Vepatas means trembling, like a leaf. His body is trembling. Romaharshascha jayate, and all his goose flesh coming up, all his hair starts standing. So this is his state on the battlefield when he sees his uncles, his companions and his teachers. The bow, gandiva samsrita hastat, tvakchaiva paridhyate. Tvak means his skin. His skin feels it's burning all over. And Gandiva was his bow. His bow slips from his hand. He can't hold up his bow. Nacha shaknomi avasthum, and I am unable to stand. Nacha shreyo anupashyami hatva swajanam ahave. I see conflicting portents, O Keshava. Nor do I foresee good from killing one's own people in battle. So not only is he feeling physically, these are all physical symptoms. When you say your hands and feet are trembling, your mouth is running dry, your skin is burning. And not only that, he starts having psychological feelings, hallucinations. He starts seeing conflicting portents. I see viparitani nimittani. I am beginning to see bad omens. And I cannot foresee good from killing one's own people in battle. Suddenly he wants to become a very great Dharmatma, Mahatma. He feels, no, it's not right. We should not kill our own people in battle. Na kankshe vijayam Krishna, na cha rajyam sukhani cha, kim no rajyena govinda, kim bhogair jivitena va. And he justifies himself like a great thinker. He is justifying. He is saying, I do not wish for victory, nor kingdom, nor pleasures. What is kingdom to us, O Govinda? What enjoyment or even life? What is the use of all these things? Yesham arthe kankshitam no rajyam bhogam sukhani cha. And he says, they for whose sake kingdom, enjoyments and pleasures are desired by us are standing here in battle, having renounced their interest in life and in wealth. Teachers, fathers, sons and also grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, as well as other kinsmen. These I do not want to kill, though they kill me, O Krishna. Even if I was given the three lok, the three worlds, that is the earth, the heavens, the middle regions and the nether world, my dominion over all these three worlds, even for that I will not kill these kinsmen. They are all ready to fight. Even if they want to kill me, I will not kill them. This is his noble sentiment. And he starts feeling sorry for them. And he wants to take all the blame away from them. He says, I will not kill them. Having killed these sons of Dhritarashtra, what delight can there be for us? O Janarda, only sin will come to us after killing this marauding rabble. This is the first time he uses the word papa, sin. So he says, even I will fall into sin by killing these people. He calls them marauding rabble. That means they are all an indisciplined, rowdy lot. And even by killing them, only sin will come. And so we ought not to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, our relations, for how indeed can we be happy after killing our own people, O Madhava? Even if they whose minds are overpowered by greed see no wrong in the destruction of family and no crime in treachery to friends, they are the ones who are not willing to part with the kingdom. So these are all noble sentiments of a sensitive person, of a thinking person, of a kind person, of a good person. Only such a person can think of these ideals, can have such feelings. Yet why should we not learn to turn away from this sin, we who do not see wrong in the destruction of family? Since they cannot understand these things, let us who understand turn away, and let's not destroy the family. Because he sees all his family members there, and he senses that this war is going to destroy all of them. So he says, better not. In the destruction of family, the immemorial clan traditions perish. And now he gives an example of the traditions, culture that we have. When the family is destroyed, naturally, nobody can carry the traditions. The traditions will perish. And when the tradition goes away, then all the members of the clan become lawless. Our dharma starts to come. When wrong ways prevail, O Krishna, the women of the family become corrupt. And when women become corrupt, O Vaishniya, mixing of clans arises. This is the great Varna Sankaraha. He says, when wrong ways prevail, the women of the family become corrupt. And when women become corrupt, mixing of clans arises. The mixing leads both the family and the destroyers of the family to hell. For the ancestors fall when deprived of their offerings of rice balls and water rites. So it is believed that we have 2 or 3 obligations to fulfill. We have an obligation to ancestors. We have an obligation to the rishis. We have an obligation to the Supreme. When we study the Gita and we study the other holy books, we fulfill our obligation to the rishis. And when people beget children, when they have their family, then they fulfill their obligation to the ancestors. And also there are rituals, the Pindadan, and which have to be offered by the members of the family for the sake of their ancestors. But when this Varna Sankara takes place, mixing of clans takes place, the offerings of ancestors is given up. And so the ancestors also suffer. He draws up such a big argument, not only from the fact of killing, but tradition falling down, ancestors getting upset, and incurring sin. All these reasons, he says, why he should not fight in the battle, why he should not kill his own fellow family members. But these misdeeds of the destroyers of families, causing intermixing of clans, the immemorial traditions of the family, clan and family are destroyed. Men of families whose clan traditions are destroyed, O Janardana, are destined to live in hell, thus we have heard. So they go to Naraka. When all these traditions are destroyed, and when the rites and rituals are all destroyed, then that family begins to go into Naraka. That is what he has heard. Alas, a great sin are we engaged in committing in endeavoring to kill our own people through greed for the pleasures of kingdom. So he forgets that this is a battle between dharma and adharma. It's a battle between righteousness and unrighteousness. That the Kurus were unrighteous people, that they were in the wrong, that they were flaunting the law, the rules, and they were practicing unrighteousness. He forgets that bigger picture, and instead now he is putting forward all his sentimental arguments and saying that it is better that we don't disturb them so that the family traditions can go on and we don't incur the hell of killing our own family members. It would be better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, arms in hand, should kill me unarmed and unresisting in battle. And this is the final stage where he says, let them even come and kill me, I don't care. Unresisting, it will better that they kill me rather than I kill them. Thus having spoken in the midst of the battle, Arjuna sat down in his chariot seat, casting away his bow and arrow, his mind overwhelmed with sorrow. And this is his lowest absolute dejection comes to the final point when he gives up. He says, I give up, let them even kill me, it doesn't matter. And he sits down on his chariots. Everybody is standing on the battlefield ready to fight. He casts aside his bow and he sits down on his chariot, mind overwhelmed with sorrow. Shoka samvighna manasaha. His manas, his mind has become filled with shoka, with sorrow. And with this particular
shloka, the chapter
also comes to an end. So it describes the battle, describes the enthusiasm of the beginning and the conflict of Arjuna. and the nature of his conflict. Nature of his conflict is of both a psychological conflict, cultural conflict, simple ethical conflict. Ethical conflict means right and wrong, should we kill, should we not kill. And cultural conflict, that you will bring the destruction of traditions, destruction of clans. Psychological conflict, that his mind was beginning to see all kinds of wrong hallucinations. He was beginning to see wrong omens. So it's a complete, you can think of a moral and spiritual, psychological failure of a human being, where he is unable to function and he is overwhelmed by pity, sentiments and unjustified logic. His logic is not very accurate. It's more sentimental because of his attachment. When he saw his uncle, his teachers and the Acharya and his grandfather, he felt his attachment towards them. His attachments took over, and that made him forget the true purpose of his life, the true purpose of his being, the true purpose of his mission, and even his duty, what he had to do. It is from this point that Krishna takes on the teaching. Krishna up to now has been just listening to him. And from the second chapter onwards, you find that the actual teaching begins. That is why many people do not take the first chapter very seriously, because there is no teaching as such. So many commentators, people who write explanations, they even avoid the first chapter. They think that the first chapter is not worth commenting about. But here, Guru Nitya, Guru Nataraja Guru have taken a different view. They have said the first chapter is very important because it gives the problem. It states the problem. If you don't know the problem, you will not understand the full meaning of the Gita. So here we are given the exact nature of Arjuna's conflict. And one by one in the course of the Gita, you will find that these questions are answered. Krishna answers all the questions that Arjuna has. The doubts that he had are one by one cleared. And in the end, his mind is fully settled and his understanding is normalized again. He says, Nashto Moha, my delusion is gone. Smritir Labdhva, I have regained my memory. Right now he has got wrong memory. Apasmara it is called, wrong memory. Instead of getting the right ideas, you start getting the wrong ones. So apasmara comes, wrong memories come, irrelevant memories start taking over. By wisdom, by knowledge, right knowledge, that is corrected. And then he begins to see what his real purpose was, what is higher knowledge, what is the transcendental knowledge. That is the beginning from the second chapter, which is called Sankhya Yoga. So it contains the key to a proper understanding of the teacher's teaching in the rest of the book. The problems posed in this chapter are of a perennial kind. Now, the point is, how do you apply these questions in life? Here in the commentary we see examples are given that many people face a similar situation in life like of Arjuna. Maybe not so drastic, but there may be a teacher who is correcting papers and he sees that his own son is just below the pass mark. Isn't he tempted to add and pass him? Or a judge has to sentence some relative of his own, and then his own sentiments are welling up from inside, imploring him to pity the person because he's somebody dear to you. And on the other side is the law, which has to be impartial, which has to be upheld. So these are some of the conflicts here. So in the case of Arjuna too, he was forgetting his duty for the sake of the attachment and then justifying it, giving reasons why he should not fight. It's a kind of pseudo-philosophy, sentimental philosophy, and philosophy of the common man who is not very much enlightened, does not know much, has no deep knowledge. That is the kind of arguments he gives here. And even giving up, abandoning, and especially as a warrior, better to die on the battlefield. You are supposed to die fighting. That is the most noble exit, for either you fight and you win, or you die while you are fighting. That is the warrior's way. But he wants to give up. He is surrendering. He is saying it is better that they kill me rather than I kill them. And change from this attitude is brought in the next chapter. Krishna scolds him. Krishna does not say that you are such a nice person saying such beautiful things and so kind-hearted. He scolds him. He says, you are behaving like a weak person, an impotent person. Klaibyam masmagama partha. And says, anarya justam, asvargyam, akirtir karam Arjuna. This is a heaven barring. It will spoil your reputation. And it is anarya. It is not fit for an Aryan to think like this. Anarya justam, asvargyam, akirtir karam Arjuna. That is in the next chapter. So here this chapter we find is ending. So you can also say it's a revaluation of Vedic to Vedantic also. All the thoughts that have come here about the Pindadana and the relatives and the Varna Sankara, mixing of clans, these are all the common psychological feelings that people have about community feelings and feeling about traditional respect, blind sort of respect for the older generation, no matter what they were great, they were good, they were etc., etc., etc. So you can say revaluation is also being affected here in terms of wisdom, not that we are rejecting it, but we are revaluing it in terms of a wiser approach, in a new and better way of looking at life through a wisdom, wise person's perspective, by realizing that there are many levels of truth. What we see at the surface or the superficial level is not the only existence we have, but there are other levels too, which will be taught in the coming chapters. So this is how Vishada Yoga ends. Now Vishada and Yoga, there is a difference between ordinary Vishada and Vishada Yoga. Vishada, as we said, is conflict or despondency or dejection. But this is a Vishada Yoga. When you say Vishada Yoga, it means that a person comes out of it. Arjuna comes out of it. Though he is in conflict at the moment, he will eventually come out of it. But if it's just Vishada, ordinary Vishada, then a person becomes fixed, stuck there. He is unable to get out of it. It becomes chronic case of dejection, chronic case of depression. But this is a Vishada Yoga, which means that even though he is in dejection, he will eventually come out of it. And that is why the word yoga implies that he is going to eventually come out of it. So even despondency has been treated as a yoga, something so negative. Yoga always implies union with God, all positive values, happiness, bliss, peace, knowledge, harmony, unity. These are all the normal ideas associated with yoga. Happiness, clarity, cheerfulness. But here we have something very negative like Vishada. But even Vishada can be a yoga. You find that a person is growing out of it. So dialectical conflict of Arjuna. So there is a kind of declining, you can say Dhritarashtra and all his Kurus, they all show a decline on old, bygone era, old standards and outmoded ways of doing things, old-fashioned. But they are still clinging on and disrupting the life of people. They don't have any value as such. They cannot contribute anything positive, but people are still holding on to it for the sake of tradition or for the sake of culture. So that is also an interpretation. And you can say that is from now onwards you are going to revalue. You are getting new values for a more different age by age, as mankind's civilization progresses from era to era, age to age. We find many old modes have to become extinct, have to be discarded, have to be given up, and new ways of thinking, new ways of understanding have to be adopted, evolved. It's like a swelling in complexity. Life is becoming more and more complex day by day. And as the civilization becomes more complex, we have to find new ways to handle, new ways to live, new ways to understand, new ways to integrate. And if we don't do that, then the culture becomes stagnant. It becomes static. It is unable to develop and it dies out. So many cultures of the world have died out. Many kingdoms have died out. Many ways of life have become extinct because they could not keep pace with the change of time. So that is another way to interpret this chapter, that these values which Arjuna is talking of now were values of a bygone era which have to be now discarded, given up, and a new approach has to be taken up, which will be given in the next chapter. So we start with the tail end of something which is bygone, and we will be given a new, more philosophical, more precise, a more clear way of thinking in the rest of the Gita. So it's a crystallized form, dead letters. Everywhere you have dead formalities, crystallizations, laws, rules, regulations, which were made for an old time, but they are still being practiced today, and they are losing their meaning, but people still keep following it because we have not evolved a new method of doing things. So that way also you find that we have to keep changing our ways, keep changing our laws, keep changing our rules and regulations to suit the time, to make it more efficient, to make it more relevant, rather than to hang on to something for sentimental reasons. So some people get old-fashioned, they hold on to things for sentimental reasons. They don't want to give up, just because it is tradition. Traditionally it was like that, so I hold on to it. It has no meaning today. I cannot do any good with it, but I still hold on to it. We should be able to revalue. Don't abandon, we're saying revalue it. To put it in a new format, change its application. So these are also ways to understand this chapter. And the battlefield, again we have the two most opposite, extreme opposites placed. Arjuna is a very refined person, but he is put in the battlefield face to face with all the most hard-hearted and crude, mean-minded, evil-minded persons on the opposite side. Also the battle is the worst man-made disaster. Natural disasters, of course, earthquakes and etc. are worse, but man-made disaster, the worst disaster can be a battle, nothing worse than a battle. And on the other side we have Sri Krishna teaching. Sri Krishna is Lord himself, Bhagavan. God is teaching on the battlefield. God is the most sublime, the most wonderful thing in a person's life. Nothing can be better than God. That's the highest value. So the highest value and the worst value are placed side by side. That is the beauty of the Gita, dialectical way. It places the two opposites directly one against one another. The worst situation, the best situation are placed in direct counterpart, facing one another. And so they chose the setting of a battlefield to teach the highest of wisdoms. It is not taught in the forest retreat, it is not taught in a comfortable university building, but it is taught in the harsh arena of the battlefield itself, where arrows are flying and where death and brutality is all around you. And there you are taught the sublime knowledge of the spirit. So both the opposites again come together, intermingled. Again, when Arjuna's chariot is placed in the middle, that is also an indication that to get an understanding, we always go to the center. To study a situation, we must be able to go to the center. Step out of our own position and stand in the center, and then we get a clear view of both the sides of a situation. We should be able to see both the sides of every situation. If you want to get a perfect understanding, that's called dialectical. That is called a yoga. If you take both the counterpart together, then it is a yoga. Otherwise it is one-sided. These are all the symbolic secrets, because these are all full of symbols, symbolic meaning also. Just like we said, Dhritarashtra has got a meaning. Like that, we can think of Arjuna as Arjavam, uprightness, that which is upright, straightforward. That is Arjuna. So there is an Arjuna in us, the voice that keeps us straight, upright, frank, honest. And there is a Dhritarashtra, the blind spot that people have, in which we take sides, we are unable to understand, we are unable to reach out, where prejudices operate. And then there is a Krishna in us, that is the pure light of consciousness, that is guiding us all the time from within us. There is a Krishna in us, there is an Arjuna in us, there is a Dhritarashtra in us. When we draw them symbolically, we can draw a closed eye, the closed eye, blind eye, that is Dhritarashtra. You can draw an open eye, alert, vigilant, that is Arjuna. He's always alert, he's always vigilant. And then there is one eye with a lamp in it, a light in it, that is Krishna. He is showing and he is also seeing. He's vigilant and he is also conscious. He's giving us consciousness. The consciousness that we have, the awareness that we have, that comes from Krishna. Akarshan, that which attracts. Krishna word comes from Akarshan, that which attracts, that which is so dear to us. That is all has to do with Krishna. So we can see how the Duryodhana, Dushasana, these are all the bad tendencies. The stubbornness, that is Duryodhana, difficult to defeat. Dushasana, stubbornness, meanness, wickedness, these are all the qualities that are personified on the side of the Kauravas. When you see somebody is very stubborn, unable to reason, you can reason with somebody, still the person does not take heed, heedlessly stubborn, self-destructively stubborn, then you say that is a Duryodhana type of character. So actually saying, the wonder of the Mahabharata is that it's like a mirror. It's like reading the story of humanity. It's like reading the story of everybody's lives. It's like bringing out in symbols what is hidden in everybody's character, in everybody's personality, in everybody's consciousness, in everybody's thinking, the way they think, the way they behave. They've all been made into characters and personalities, and with different shades of characters. So it's a wonderful study. If you study the Mahabharata and Gita, you will begin to see the inner character of all people, and you can be insightful, and life is quite a joy when you have an insight. You see inwardly, you become inwardly looking. This is the chapter entitled Arjuna Vishada Yoga, chapter 1.